If you could remain standing, please. At this time, I would like to invite Police Lieutenant Nathan Mueller of the Lexington Police Department to provide us with an invocation.
Please pray with me. Almighty Father, Creator of the heavens and the earth, we recognize that we live in a fallen and broken world, Lord, where our lives are sometimes marked by tragedy and loss. We come before you today in reflection and remembrance of the lives lost in a tragedy here in Lexington on the morning of August 27th, 2006. And Father, while the years and decades have passed, we still feel the effect of this event in our homes, in our families, and in our community. Father, I pray that you would draw especially near to the families who lost loved ones on that day. May your spirit of comfort and peace continue to be close and present with them. May our presence as a community here today bring them a measure of comfort as well. May they know that they are not alone. The ones that they held so dear have not been forgotten. Father, I also pray for the first responders who arrived on scene that morning and begin to try to bring order to that chaos. May you bring peace to their hearts and minds, peace to the memories that they carry from that morning. When times of tragedy come, Father, we know that there's nothing better for us to hold on to than your promises. God, you are our refuge and strength. You are a very present help in trouble. You are near the brokenhearted, and you save the crushed in spirit. God, you call on us to cast our burdens on you, and you promise that you will sustain us. Thank you for your promises, Lord. Thank you for your presence. May you guide and direct our time of remembrance here today, and may your peace and comfort remain with all those who carry the memory of that morning. And it's in your Son's name that we pray. Amen. Amen.
Thank you. You may be seated. I wish to especially extend a warm welcome to those family members present today who lost loved ones on this date, the 27th of August, 2006. Even after 20 years, sadly, grief never ends. I had once read in a quote that it changes. It's a passage. It's not a sign of weakness nor lack of faith. It's the price of love. But we never should let such a tragedy define the rich and meaningful lives that those lost loved ones exemplified. They were actively living amazing lives and involved in diversity of careers. They absolutely must be remembered, among many things, for their intelligence, their warmth, their wit, their generosity, community involvement, commitment and devotion to their families, the children they inspired, and friends fortunate to have known them, and all who received their love. They left behind a lasting legacy. We hope that today's memorial will convey a sense of remembrance, community, and peace. Remembrance for lost loved ones, community for the unwavering support of so many at the time of the accident, and peace, along with continued healing for the families of our community. I was asked to share some thoughts of my experience with 5191 and the memorial itself. On the day of the accident, I was general manager of the Crown Plaza Campbell House. At the hotel, we certainly had emergency procedures in place to address the care and needs of guests following severe weather disasters and other emergencies, but nothing can really prepare you for the magnitude of what we were about to deal with, and especially in terms of the emotional challenges of caring for folks facing such a difficult and tragic ordeal. As part of the first responders for the family members coming to Lexington immediately following the tragedy, we were entrusted to provide them with care, comfort, strength, and support as best we could. I've never been more proud of a team that responded in the way that they did for 7 straight days. But that day and the entire week involved many first responders and others, literally all of us. here in Lexington, many of you who are here today, who became unified, connected, and answered in serving the call for comforting those in need. The memories of that tragedy is something that remains connected with you forever. In my lifetime, I have never before or since experienced such a genuine demonstration of concern and spontaneous care and giving. Once again, it was all of us. We became connected to the lives of those on the flight. We may not have personally known someone who perished on the crash, but I often have heard, and in the years to come, of others who intimately knew someone on the flight. Inherently, I believe, and indeed experienced firsthand at the time of Flight 5191, that there exists in all of us as human beings the compassion, desire, and willingness to go and look beyond ourselves and to rise to the occasion. We received so many calls from individuals, local businesses, schools, restaurants, other hotels, and service organizations such as the American Red Cross, Hospice of the Bluegrass, the Salvation Army, United Way, just to mention a few, asking how and where they could be of help. I know and believe it strengthened us all in the community with a great sense of resolve and faith in serving humanity. The better angels, as President Lincoln so eloquently called upon us to become, was certainly reflected at every turn. I hope that you will indulge me some and allow me to provide you with a brief glimpse of some of who those angels were who provided support. I know she's here. Then Mayor Teresa Isaacs called me each morning at 6:30 to check on how things were going at the hotel, providing us with encouragement and to see if we needed assistance in any way. Other leaders in the community who called or stopped by or provided services included Coroner Gary Ginn, then Chief of Police Anthony Beatty, Rabbi Mark Klein of Temple Adath Israel, Jan Brigado of the YMCA, Larry Bell, General Manager of the Radisson Hotel downtown at the time, Sheriff Witt, I know she's here today, Michael Gobb, and Amy Caudell of Bluegrass Airport, and Bernie Lovely. Outreach from the community did not stop there. The kindness of strangers was also evident the entire week. I recall a woman who called crying and asking if she could help clean guest rooms or work in the laundry, do anything to serve the needs of families. I recall a special school teacher, Megan Rook, and her elementary class who brought notes from students that we then hung in the meeting room where the families met, and where they would be able to read the heartfelt and touching special message of a child. Food was constantly being delivered to the hotel from various sources such as restaurants, bakeries, groceries, which we placed in the dining area. Again, it was all about us. Along, of course, with the food the hotel was preparing on a 24/7 basis. A group of approximately a dozen family members of a Japanese couple who had lost their lives in the accident had come to America following the crash, had never been here before. I wish to especially recognize Julie Blythe, who is a previous director of the Japanese American Society of Kentucky and very fluent in Japanese language and culture, stepped up immediately and became very instrumental in communicating with them for several days, providing resources for us to order proper cuisine to meet their dietary needs. There were many, many more angels who descended upon Lexington that week. Within a short period of time following the crash, then Governor Ernie Fletcher called for a commission to be formed with the goal of having a fitting memorial and in a desired location that would honor the lives of those who had perished. Along with the late Dr. Ray Garman, retired U.S. Air Force Brigadier General, he and I were appointed as co-commissioners for the memorial. I hold him in very high regard for his dedication and that unique ability to keep the lighter side during some difficult times of sadness. He certainly is missed. The Memorial Commission itself included several citywide business and community citizens, including Marion Blodgett and Charlie Bolin. I know Charlie's here today. Terry Burkhart of the Red Cross, the late Mary Kay Fedorchuk of Hospice of the Bluegrass, Kathy Ploman of United Way of the Bluegrass, Mary Ellen Sloan of Meridian Childs, Scott Lanter, Chief of Public Safety for Bluegrass Airport. Subsequent representative from the Governor Beshear's office, Eddie Jacobs. I know Eddie's here. the late Marcia Ferris of the Arboretum, and of course the chosen sculptor of the memorial, Dow Bloomberg. After reviewing countless proposals, the artist designed by Dow Bloomberg was unanimously chosen by the family members for its creativity, with birds made of aluminum casting alighting upwards from a marble-based foundation, with the birds all connected together. Dow requested and subsequently received a special personal memento of each person on that flight, which were provided by each of the family members and sealed in the cavity of the birds in the memorial. Thank you, sir, for being here today. But most importantly, members of the committee also involved a number of family members having lost loved ones in the crash. They comprised a significant number of the commission members of the Memorial Committee and helped immensely in the planning and development of the sculpture. In particular, several family members who were consistently involved included Matthew Snoddy, Sue Bird, Jean Smith, Jennifer Combs, Brian Smith, Anita Threet, Miriam Queen, Ann Day, and Lois Turner. There were others, and my apologies for not recognizing everyone. While all the while they were helping us, they were enduring the difficult memory of a lost loved one, and especially Matthew Snoddy, who assumed a strong leadership role with every step of the way for the memorial and past memorials. We would meet up almost monthly for 5 years before the completion and actually unveiling of the memorial. Finding the right memorial and location was obviously paramount. We wanted the families to direct that, something that would be uplifting and bring continued dignity to the lives of lost loved ones. At this time, I will be introducing the mayor. It is out of genuine care and concern for families having lost ones and the community that our mayor, Linda Gordon, felt it was important that on this date that a fitting memorial for the families and the community transpire. It is due to her leadership, but much more importantly, a demonstration of her wonderful humanitarian example, and why this memorial was planned today and why we are here. I wish to welcome the Honorable Mayor Linda Gordon to the podium.
Thank you very much, Jerry. Good afternoon, everyone. I want to thank each and every one of you for being with us today for this special 20th anniversary commemoration. Lieutenant Governor Coleman, it's nice to be with you. We're happy to have you here. I also want to recognize some other special guests who have joined us. Vice Mayor Dan Wu, 3rd District Councilmember Tom Eblin, Councilmember Emma Curtis, Councilmember Lisa Higgins Horde, Councilmember Amy Beasley, Councilmember Whitney Baxter, Councilmember Jennifer Reynolds, Councilmember Hill Boone, and I spied Councilmember James Brown, Councilmember Shayla Lynch. Thank you very much. We also have State Senator Reggie Thomas, State Senator Donald Douglas, I believe is here, State Representative Adriel Camuel, Kentucky State Police Commissioner Philip Burnett, and Greg McNeil, representing Senator Rand Paul. I am very proud of our city's public safety team, which is well represented today. Many of them were involved 20 years ago. We have Public Safety Commissioner Ken Armstrong, Police Chief Lawrence Weathers, Fire Chief Jason Wells, E911 Director Jonelle Patton, Corrections Chief Scott Colvin, Emergency Management Director Rob Larkin, and members of our divisions of police and fire. And a special thanks to Assistant Chief Maria Oni for today's wonderful playing of the bagpipes. Among us are public leaders, as you have heard, who directly responded to the tragedy. Fayette County Sheriff Kathy Witt, Fayette County Coroner Gary Gann, former Mayor Teresa Isaac, and former Lexington Police Chief Anthony Beatty. Thank you for joining us for this commemoration. Today's event would not have been possible without the support of Bluegrass Airport President and CEO Eric Frankel, who's with us, and Vice President of Marketing and Community Relations, Amy Caudle. Thank you very much for being here, along with members of your airport emergency response team. 20 years ago, on August 27th, 2006, our community was shaken by a terrible tragedy that none of us could ever have expected. We all remember very well, and each of us has a story of someone we lost that day or someone we knew who, by another friend who knew a friend. We all remember where we were when the news came. Of course, no one was more deeply affected than the families of those who were lost. While our community, our Commonwealth, and our nation lost the unknown potential and future impact of the 49 souls we remember today, the families lost so much more: love, companionship, family meals, birthdays, marriages, holidays, vacations, and countless other moments in between. We never know where our futures lead, though we each carry hopes and dreams for them. Tragedies like the Flight 5191 disaster shake us to our core and reshape our lives in an instant. Matthew, Sue, and all of the family members with us today, you will always remain in our hearts. We continue to be so sorry for your loss and acknowledge the sudden, life-changing challenges you have courageously faced. One organization that provided such tremendous support to the families was Hospice of the Bluegrass, now Bluegrass Care Navigators. They also helped develop the Remembrance Gardens here at the Arboretum. We are grateful to have their staff and leaders here today. Thank you very much. We also recognize the extraordinary work of our MC, Jerry Vandermeer. As general manager, Jerry did not have to open the doors of the Campbell House 20 years ago to families, first responders, support teams, but he did. He did not have to continue serving those families by helping lead the fundraising effort for this beautiful memorial, or by playing an integral role in the 10-year remembrance ceremony, but he did. And he certainly didn't have to help us plan today's 20th anniversary event, but he did. Jerry has done all of this with grace, gratitude, and compassion for the families who lost their loved ones. The Arboretum, which is the state botanical garden, is the perfect place for the Remembrance Garden and the beautiful Flight 5191 Memorial. I want to thank the memorial's artist, Dal Blumberg, for being with us today. And I also want to thank Arboretum Director Dr. Michael Wall, the University of Kentucky, represented by Senior Vice President and Chief Operations Officer of UK Healthcare, Tim Slocum, and the Arboretum staff for this memorial and for welcoming us here today for this commemoration. As Jerry said, in the memorial you see 49 doves rising together, reaching toward the heavens, each holding a symbol of a life taken too soon. My hope, whenever I or you visit this memorial, is that we will never forget those we lost, that we continue to care for those left behind, and that we strive to live each of our lives to the fullest. Thank you very much for being here. Thank you, Jerry.
Thank you, Mayor Gordon, for your kind and uplifting words and for bringing Remember Us all together here today to ensure that the lives of those whom we lost will not be forgotten. The governor's office was very much involved under both Governors Ernie Fletcher's term with the initial development of the Memorial Commission and subsequently the support and dedication and financial amounts for the memorial continued forward under Governor Stephen Beshear. Under both governors' steadfast leadership, significant attention was provided constantly for the memorial. It is very evident and very much appreciated for the interest shown and involvement under our current governor, Andy Beshear, by having our Lieutenant Governor here today to share her thoughts. Welcome, Lieutenant Governor Jacqueline Coleman.
Thank you so much, Mayor Gordon, members of the Flight 5191 Commission, first responders, and most importantly, the families, loved ones, and friends who have gathered here today. Thank you for allowing me to stand with you. Two decades ago, on a quiet Sunday morning, time stood still for Lexington, Kentucky, and for 49 precious souls who boarded Comair Flight 5191. 20 years is a significant milestone. For some, 2 decades may feel like a lifetime. But I know for many of you sitting here today, it feels like yesterday. The weight of this loss, the void at the family dinner table, and the quiet moments of missing someone you loved will never fully disappear. But today we pause to honor the 49 women, men, and children who lost their lives. They were embarking on honeymoons, returning to work, visiting family, and pursuing their dreams. And everyone here has some varying degree of connection to someone who was on that flight, including me. When the news broke, I remember seeing the face of a very familiar college classmate, Scarlett, on the news. Behind each of the 49 names that are carved into the base of this memorial is a story of dreams, hopes, and ambitions. To the families who have carried this grief for 20 years, Kentucky has watched your resilience with profound humility. You turned unspeakable heartbreak into a lasting movement for safety, accountability, and community. You built this memorial so that future generations could reflect and remember. Your strength is a testament to the power of love, proving that while death can end a life, it can never erase a memory. We also hold space today for our first responders, the firefighters, law enforcement officers, medical personnel, and airport staff who rushed towards danger on that dark day. You carried a heavy burden that day and in the weeks and months that followed. You showed up for your neighbors in their hour of greatest need, offering care, humanity, and courage. On behalf of the Commonwealth, we remain forever grateful for your service and your sacrifice. 20 years ago, a tragedy changed Lexington forever, but the story of Flight 5191 inspired changes in aviation, in safety across our nation to ensure other families would be spared this pain. May we all recommit ourselves to holding our loved ones a little closer, speaking words of love a little bit more often, and ensuring that the 49 people that we remember here today are never, ever forgotten. May God bless their memory, may God bless their loved ones, and may God continue to bless the Commonwealth of Kentucky. Thank you.
Thank you, Lieutenant Governor Coleman, for being here and providing your genuine words of support. One thing we've heard several times today is those very first responders at the site. As we all know, many dedicated officers of the Lexington Police Department, Bluegrass Airport Safety and Security personnel, the Fire Department, and the Fayette County Coroner's Office. They were on the front line in responding to the Flight 5191 tragedy. We're fortunate to live in a community of dedicated public service workers, and clearly their actions were heroic in what they were facing that morning. At this time, Chief Lawrence Weathers of the Lexington Police Department and Fire Chief Jason Wells of the Lexington Fire Department will read the names of those loved ones who were lost in Flight 5191.
Rebecca Adams, Christina Anderson, Lyle Orville Anderson, Arnold P. Andrews, Anne Marie Bailey, Bobby Benton, Clark Benton, Carol R. Bizak, George Brew Nashini, Brian C. Bird, Jeffrey Clay, Diane Combs, Homer Combs, Fenton Dawson, Thomas Connolly Fahey, Mike Finley, Clarence Wayne Fortney II, W. Bartley Frederick, Holly Gilbert, Eric John Harris, Kelly James Heyer, Jonathan Hooker, Scarlett Pursley Hooker, Priscilla Johnson.
Nahoko Kono, Tetsuya Kono, Charles M. Likens, Dan Mallory, Stephen McAlvery, Linda McKee, Robert I. Mew, K. Craig Morris, Leslie W. Morris II, Cecile Moscow, Judy Ann Rains, Michael Ryan, Mary Jane Silas, Patrick Hogan Smith, Timothy K. Snoddy, Marcy Reynolds Thomason, Gregory Allen Theet, Randy D. Tolles, Larry W. Turner, Victoria Washington, Jeff Williams, Paige Michelle Winters, Brian Woodward, Joanne Wright, Betty Butler Young.
Thank you, gentlemen, for your department's response then as well as now. In mentioning Matthew Sonati and Sue Bird earlier as part of my dialogue, words can never adequately express my high regard I hold for each of them as individuals and the impactful and invaluable support throughout the development of the memorial. They tirelessly and constantly advocated for the families while balancing the difficult loss of a loved one. Having both lost a loved one, Matthew, his dad, Timothy, and Sue, her son, Brian. They will both now provide some of their thoughts with us. Matthew?
December 24th, 1954. Christmas Eve. Greenup County, Kentucky. It's a northeast county of Kentucky that borders Ohio and West Virginia. Timothy Keith Snoddy was born to Clinton and Joanne Snoddy, their first child. My grandmother always said he was the greatest Christmas present she'd ever received. August 27th, 2006. The date engraved on his marker ends the same as 48 others we remember today. In between the two dates, Tim earned a degree in accounting from here at the University of Kentucky, raised a family, became a CPA, later a forensic accountant. He started his own forensic accounting practice, aptly named Snoddy Consulting. and grew it to have offices not only in Lexington, but also Asheville, North Carolina, and Stuart, Florida. Dad was flying to Atlanta that morning to connect to a flight to further go to his Florida office, where he had work waiting. His work ethic was only matched by his zest for life. Friends, family, and experiences sustained him. The evening before, Saturday, August the 26th, he attended picnic with the Pops with a circle of friends. When cleaning his office after the crash, I found tickets for an upcoming Rolling Stone concert that he would never attend. This is not a eulogy for Tim Snoddy. It's an illustration. His life was a thread. The thread, when the view is broadened, is a part of what we often call a tapestry, filled with tens, hundreds, and even thousands of other threads. The tapestry is a metaphor for community. It's not a perfect metaphor, though, because tapestries are all perfect with right angles, perfect weaving. The reality of community is odd angles, different directions, unexpected connections. Threads of all shapes and sizes, as well as other communities that also have threads intersecting ours, and many others. Community is an ethereal concept. There is no start or end, no edge or center, only connections between threads that make it up. People make community. People bring their personalities, their ambitions, and their abilities to communities. Similarly, the sculpture of 49 birds here at the memorial each touches each other. Similarly, they are all at different angles, different connections, different directions. They support and strengthen the piece as a whole. The sculpture cannot stand without those connections. Community cannot stand without those connections. The tragedy reminds us that life is fleeting. None of us are promised tomorrow. In the 20 years since the crash, we have lost other members of our community. I just want to mention a few people like Ray Garman, the co-chair of the Memorial Commission that resulted in our sculpture. Mary Kay Fedorchuk, previously mentioned as well, beloved liaison between the families and Hospice of the Bluegrass. Lois Turner, wife of Larry Turner. Ann Kay, sister of Betty Morris. Tony Bird, the father of Brian Bird. In time, all our threads will cease to go on, but our communities and our contributions, our pieces of the tapestry, will go on. Memorials always solemnly read the names of those who passed, but these were the people that made up our community. They were friends, family, acquaintances, colleagues, and coworkers. There were warm hugs, thoughtful gifts, and caring conversations. They were the people who didn't see a 6 a.m. flight as an inconvenience. A 6 a.m. flight was an opportunity. Get ahead of the day. Do the things that are needed. Get the travel out of the way. We've got other plans. These were exceptional people like Carol, George, Brian, Jeff, Cecile, Fenton, Thomas, Paige, Diane, and Homer. Motivated people like Mike, Joanne, C.W., Bart, Jeff, Holly, Eric, Kelly, John, and Scarlett. Ambitious people like Priscilla, Charles, Dan, Betty, Steve, Linda, Bobby, Jim, Nahoko, and Tetsu. Successful people like Judy, Brian, Michael, Mary, Pat, Tim, Marcy, Greg, Randy, Larry, Victoria, Kay, and Les. These are not just names on a sculpture. They were real people doing real things in the real world, making real changes. They were part of the fabric of our lives and integral parts of our communities. It's not wishful thinking that these are the people that continued community and connections in that cabin that morning. I'd like to think that someone like Greg Threet, who was sitting next to Tim Snoddy, struck up a conversation, possibly made some plans, talked about their kids. I also want to acknowledge the reality of the community that we share. I suspect that I'm not alone, that I have emotions when I see another airliner tragedy on the news. To the communities surrounding Colgan 3407, February 2009 in New York, American Airlines 5342, January 2025, over the Potomac River. UPS 2976, November 2025, here in Louisville. And the other aviation tragedies across the globe. We empathize and extend all the love and support from our community to yours. Tim Snoddy passed away at age 51, an age I now share with him. I'm actually 16 days older than he was when he passed today. Rather than focus on how his life ended, though, I prefer to think of the time that I had with him and relish in the stories, not only my own, but those of the people that knew him. He loved being a grandfather. He was he was a storyteller. He gave advice. He loved his business, and he loved his community. We are here today to mourn, to grieve, and to remember, but we are also here today to celebrate the lives, the names, the souls that all touched our lives in meaningful ways. We are here to celebrate the first responders and all responders. We're here to celebrate community leaders and community supporters. We are here to celebrate family and friends. We are here to celebrate connections, relationships, and importantly, people. We are here to celebrate community. Each time I look back over the past 20 years and say, how did I get through this? Community whispers in my ear, we got through this together. To all the members of our community, your thoughts, prayers, efforts, love, and support did not go unnoticed. They are very much remembered and appreciated. Thank you.
Good afternoon. My name is Sue Bird. 20 years ago, my life changed in a way that no mother should ever have to experience. I am Brian Bird's mother, and on Sunday, August 27, 2006, at 6:07 a.m., I lost my son. But before I tell you about the day I lost Brian, I want you to know about the life he lived. Because Brian was not just a passenger on Flight 5191, he was my son. He was someone's friend, someone's brother, someone's future husband, and a father. He was a person with plans, dreams, a personality, a laugh, a history, and a future that until that morning seemed to stretch out in front of him. And he was loved. This is what I want people to remember 20 years later. Every mother has a story about her child. There are the memories from childhood, the little things that perhaps seem insignificant at the time, become precious as the years go by. There are the teenage years when children began to become the people they will eventually be. And then there's a moment when you realize that your son has become a man. You watch him make his own decisions. You watch him build a life. You watch him fall in love. And you begin to imagine what the rest of his life will look like. This is where Brian was in his life. He was looking forward to the future. He was in love with Judy. They were planning to be married in the Caribbean. There was a wedding ahead. There were plans and there were dreams. There was a life they expected to share, and then one terrible morning, all of that changed. Brian and Judy were traveling together on Flight 5191. They were not simply going somewhere. They were going towards a wedding and a life together. I have sometimes thought about their final moments. I imagine Brian and Judy sitting together, holding hands. I don't know that they were, but I know they were in love. And when I think about them now, 20 years later, that is the picture I choose to carry in my mind. Not the airplane, not the crash, not the terrible news. I picture Brian and Judy together, two people who believed they had a future. People sometimes talk about the passage of time as though time heals everything. I don't know that I believe that. It teaches you how to get up in the morning. It teaches you how to go through birthdays and holidays. It teaches you how to answer the question, How are you? When the honest answer is much more complicated. But time does not make you stop being a mother. It does not make you stop loving your child. There is no expiration date on the love of a mother for her son. 20 years later, Brian is still my son. I still think about him. I still wonder about the man he would have become. I wonder what his life would look like today. I wonder about the things he would have accomplished. I wonder what kind of husband he would have been. I know the father he was, what stories he would have accumulated over 20 years. Those are some of the hardest parts of losing someone young. You don't only lose the person they were, you lose all the people they were going to become. You lose the birthdays that never happened, the holidays that never came, the conversations you never had, the family gatherings where there should have been one more chair. You lose a future that existed only in your imagination, but was every bit as real to you. And through all those years, there were people who walked beside me in that grief. Tony, my husband, was part of that journey. There are some people you don't need to explain your grief because they understand it. They know what Brian meant. They know what that loss to their family. And they understand that grief is not something you simply put behind you. For nearly 17 years, Brian's father, Tony, shared the grief of losing our son. We live with the memories today. We experienced the anniversaries together. We remembered Brian together. And then about 2.5 years ago, I lost Brian's father, Tony, and that brought another grief in my life. I had spent nearly 17 years sharing the loss of our son with the man who was Brian's father. Then I had to learn how to carry the loss without him. That is something people may not always understand about grief, but grief is layered. One loss sits on top of another, and yet underneath of it all is the same thing. 49 lives. Brian was one of 49 people who passed that morning, but there were 49 individual stories, 49 families, 49 circles of people who loved someone who did not come home. Every one of those people left an empty place. Every one of them had someone who would have given anything to have had one more conversation, one more hug, and one more ordinary day. That is why I don't want Flight 5191 to be remembered only as an aviation tragedy. I want it remembered as 49 human stories. Brian's story is one of them, Judy's story is one of them, and the stories of all those other families belong beside ours. There is something beautiful about the memorial that was created for the people we lost. 49 birds, 49 lives. When I look at those birds, I don't see statistics. I see people. I see sons and daughters, mothers and fathers, husbands and wives, brothers and sisters, friends, people who were loved. And I think how a bird represents something we all understand, a life that was here and then suddenly gone from our sight. But perhaps there is another meaning too. The birds remind us that although those lives ended, the love surrounding them did not. Love remained behind. Love carried on in families. Love carried on in memories. Love carried on in the stories people continued to tell. 20 years is a long time, but grief doesn't follow a calendar. There are days when 20 years feel like a lifetime, and there are moments when it feels like yesterday. A song, a photograph, a familiar place, a date on the calendar, and suddenly the years disappear. For just a moment, you're back there. You remember, you feel, and you miss them. But perhaps remembering is not simply a way looking backwards. Perhaps remembering is a way of carrying love forward. That is what I have tried to do with Brian. I cannot bring him back. I cannot give him the 20 years he should have had. I cannot change August 27, 2006, but I can remember him. I can tell his story. I can say his name. And I can make sure that when people remember Flight 5191, they remember that behind the number 49 were people mattered, people who were loved, people whose lives had meaning. What remains 20 years later, this is what I know. We don't get to choose how long we have the people we love. We don't get to know which ordinary days will become the last day. We don't get to know which goodbye will be our final goodbye. But we do get to choose what we do with the love that remains. I choose to remember Brian. I choose to remember the young man he was. I choose to remember the love he shared with Judy. I choose to remember the dreams they had. I choose to remember the family they belonged to. And I choose to remember the 49 people whose lives were taken that morning, because they were more than passengers. They were someone's whole world. And 20 years later, they still are. Brian's still my son. Judy's still the woman he loved. And in my heart, I can see them together, young, holding hands, believing that their future was just beginning. Perhaps that is the image I want to leave you with, not the ending. The beginning we're supposed to have, not the tragedy, the love, not simply the 49 lives that were lost, but the 49 lives that mattered. 49 lives, 49 stories, 49 families, 49 kinds of love. And one of those stories will always be mine. Brian, my son, 20 years later, I still remember, I still love him, and I always will. Thank you.
Thank you both for your unwavering support in honoring the families and the Lexington community today with, understandably, a difficult reflection, but heartfelt words. And also for your many contributions towards the completion of our memorial. With the loss this week of such a beloved individual, an American icon, Dolly Parton, I wish to conclude just a few lyrics to a song which she sang with Brad Paisley about taking flight in the heavens. She was a woman of faith, and perhaps this is somewhat symbolic with the birds of flight with 5191. When I get where I'm going on the far side of the sky, the first thing I'm going to do is spread my wings and fly. And I'll leave my heart wide open. I will love and have no fear. When I get where I'm going, don't cry for me down here. As we finish today's program, I want to thank all of our speakers and others who helped with this important day, and especially our mayor, Craig Comic, and other members of her dedicated staff, as well as Michael Wall, Jesse Dahl, and other staff of the Arboretum. Presently, we will finish with a benediction by Fire Chief Chaplain Reverend Paula Ott, followed once again by Bagpiper and Fire Assistant Chief Maria Oni. You are welcomed afterwards and encouraged to visit the memorial. We thank you for being here and helping us to remember and honor the lives of such special individuals.
Good afternoon. To all of you that are gathered here today, I'd like you to remember that life is short and we do not have much time to make glad the hearts of those who travel this way with us. So be swift to love and make haste to be kind. And using the words of Bishop Dion Johnson, let us pray. Gracious God, send us out into the world to sow calm where there is fear, to mend what has been broken, to speak when silence serves injustice, to listen when words are too many, and to serve compassionately and faithfully until your peace and love shines through us in our homes, our communities, and our world. Amen.